Hello everyone and welcome to an hour of power with Aphrodite. We're going to begin this evening. I'm going to ask you if you can actually close your eyes and we're going to have a bit of a meditation. I'm going to light the mother candle for tonight to bring blessings to all the women on the call and all the women that will be watching the recording. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through the mouth, just letting go of your day. Again. And a third time, a nice cleansing breath, letting yourself land in this space. Placing one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. Noticing the breath moving like an undulating wave. Becoming aware of the sensations in your body. Just using this moment to be still and to feel and to breathe as we go on and explore the story of Aphrodite and how we can work with her beautiful alchemy today in this day and age. Slowly opening your eyes and I've created a PowerPoint presentation to mainly go through a lot of this stuff as well, but there'll definitely be an opportunity for interaction and questions and things like that near the end. If you do have a question, pop them in the chat box. I may not be able to answer as we're going along, and you might find your answers come through as we go. But yeah, I'll definitely be able to check that at the question at the time near the end there. So yes, this is the hour of power with Aphrodite, embodying feminine alchemy of beauty, love, and sexuality. And I'm your host, Chantal Shakti. What we're going to explore this evening is how to work with Aphrodite's gifts in your everyday life, whether you speak spiritual awakening or simply a beautiful life with loving relationships. Love look at Aphrodite's origins and see how they go much further back in Greek mythology and how this knowledge can assist you. We'll look at the collective womb of Aphrodite playing out in our lives and how, by the same token, the powers of Aphrodite are the solution. I'll introduce to you a way of the feminine, working with the goddess for self-love, healing, activating sensual body wisdom, earth magic, and feminine power, sexuality power. We'll also look at how participating in priestess initiations in the temple of the goddess is still vital for women today. So here we see a picture by Botticelli of Aphrodite riding on this beautiful shell. The Romans actually call her Venus. So Aphrodite and Venus are the same. So who is Aphrodite? Well, she's the feminine archetype and she's untamed in her expression. She's often described as radiant and shining. And when Aphrodite is present, the whole world acquires a soft glow. She's an alchemical goddess, transforming lives. Humankind advanced through the influence of her gifts of art and culture, and through her disarming manner of relating. Just helps people to be able to relax and get along and has that beautiful quality about her. She represents uniting of the feminine and masculine energies through sexual union. As the goddess of love, Aphrodite joins us to one another by imbuing something or someone with irresistible beauty, magnetic attraction. She melts defenses so that the magic of eros can flow between lovers. And she creates the desire to be known and to know so that we can conceive new life, whether that's a physical conception or psychological, spiritual, emotional conceptions. When nude growth is generated, or a vision is supported, or a spark of creativity is encouraged, Aphrodite affects and influences the people involved. So where did she come from? There's actually two stories of Aphrodite's birth, and one of the most recent ones in Greek mythology shows that she was born from the union of Zeus and Dione. But in the original Greek version, she emerges from the sea as a grown woman. Her father is Uranus, which is, as you've guessed it, similar to Uranus, the planet, the god of the sky, but she has a mother. And this story actually occurs 2 generations before Zeus. So I just wanted to pause briefly to talk a bit about Uranus and Gaia, because it's very relevant for how Aphrodite came into being. And yeah, there'll be some other connections that we're going to make from this as well. So Uranus and Gaia were lovers. He was so fascinated and intrigued by Gaia's beauty and the way that she pulsated life. And they had many children together to populate creation, including ugly creatures and demons. But Uranus hated these ugly creatures and unruly children, and he was kind of embarrassed by them, and didn't want to believe that they came, they're from him. So he imprisoned them in the depths of the earth. When Gaia found out, she was shocked and dismayed and detested her husband for doing such a thing, because Gaia, our beautiful earth mother, loves everything, loves all of her creation equally. She provides continuously in every possible way. She just gives unconditionally, all the needs that her children need, that we need on this earth. So it just was unbelievable to her that Uranus could reject these things that he felt ashamed of and wanted to hide them. And in a lot of ways, you can see how in psychology, in our psyche, things that we don't like or love or are ashamed of, we think it's ugly or unacceptable, we'll hide them and they go into the shadow. So Gaia decided to devise a plan with her son Kronos, Father Time, who's also known as Saturn. She equipped him, her son, with a sickle, and when the next time that Uranus came to sleep with Gaia, Cronus chopped off his genitals and the severed parts fell into the ocean. So, yeah, I really wanted to just pause on that to see how, whenever we suppress something that's in our shadow, it's going to play out in other ways. The unconscious shadow will eventually resurface and will either go further into denial and separation about it, or we'll face it and switch it into our power, which is a big part of what we're going to look at today, of how we can work with Aphrodite to face all these things, these disappointments, betrayals, and the difficulties and things that we don't want to admit to in our lives, and how we can actually face that with love. So I'll get you to, go into the next part, where, as I said, the genitals of Uranus fell into the ocean, and as white foam spread with sperm, they mixed together in the sea, and Aphrodite emerged as this fully grown goddess on a scallop shell. Foam-born, she's associated with the creative, life-giving sea. And I really love this image here. I found this sculpture where you can see Uranus's genitals underneath at the bottom there, and then this alchemy taking place of Aphrodite being born in this amazing manner. So I just also want to make reference here to the ocean, being born of the ocean, the life-giving sea. Many creation stories make reference to the primordial ocean of creation. And this creation ocean is a symbol of the unknown void and the mysterious. And, you know, it's often associated with the void, the dark, the feminine, all those places. And it's a great place of potential. And I think that this is a very big indicator for Aphrodite's link to being, you know, the creation goddess. So, as I said, two different stories, two different goddesses. And it is said that the newer Aphrodite is associated with physical love, that of romance and drama of the heart, whereas the older of the two stories tell of a celestial Aphrodite associated with spiritual love, that of the divine feminine alchemy of the high heart. So this is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting as well, because Aphrodite's origins actually predate the ancient Greeks. And the evidence proves that she existed before the time of dawn of time. The Greeks actually acquired her from the Sumerian goddess Inanna, who was later called Ishtar, and all these other names by different countries, different tribes of people, clans of people, but originally from this goddess Inanna. And she's also linked to the goddess Isis of Egypt. And Inanna is known as the Queen of Heaven, the Mother of all, the goddess of love, beauty, sensuality, pleasure, desire, fertility, procreation, war, combat, justice, political power, and sacred sexual rights. So when the Greeks renamed Aphrodite, they relegated her to the goddess of love, either spiritual or physical. But when we view her from her origins as the mother of all, we see her domain embraces so much more, that of nature, vegetable, animal, human. Powers are associated with fertility and growth, the harvesting of crops. We've got the cycles, war and heaven, and the descent into the underworld. We're not going to talk about Inanna tonight, but you know, there's this whole connection to her with descent into the underworld. And yeah, it's just quite amazing to just realize there's so much more to this beautiful goddess Aphrodite and Inanna. So along with this is in the temples of Aphrodite and Inanna, they had their priestesses that performed the sex magic for healing of men and for connecting to the divine, referred to these days as sacred prostitutes. They were not limited to the sexual act, but they also healed men through temple dance and other conscious raising rituals. And I really like this quote that I'll share with you. Once upon a time, sexual women ruled the world. They were independent, empowered, and embodied love. So I just also wanted to point out here something quite fascinating is that Jesus's mother Mary and his wife Mary Magdalene were of the priestess descendants of the sacred order of Inanna or Aphrodite. So they were very much aware of working with sexuality for spiritual awakening. So yeah, Aphrodite, she wasn't always golden. She had many other names across the Greek world which referred to her dark side, and we can see them here: Melanius, the black one; Gotia, the dark one; Androphonus, the killer of men; Anosia, the unholy; and Timboricus, I don't know how to pronounce that, the grave digger, which all indicates towards her more violent nature. With her violent birth, having a castrated father and absent parents, you can probably assume that this contributed to a lot of her cruelty and vindictiveness as she's, depicted in Greek mythology. In a compulsive search to transcend the pain of her loneliness, she seeks pleasure and beauty through sensory-driven reality void of honor. I think I missed something there. That's okay. So we can see here that the different ways that we might see this playing out in our lives. The dark side of Aphrodite is this seductress, or the femme fatale, being the other woman in lovers' triangles, stealing friends, boyfriends, and husbands, a home wrecker, ruining relationships, casting men aside once the damage is done, and even the immature feminine who's emotionally manipulative to get her own way. And it's not always done in a conscious vindictive state. It almost seems to be that there's just no other way of knowing. It's just something that comes about a lot of the time. But having said that, there's also the opportunity or the possibility that it is done in a conscious way, and there's a lot of pleasure in having that power and being able to wield that darker energy in that way. So I'm going to spend a moment having a look at Aphrodite's wounds. Patriarchal suppression. Men were threatened by her power, and so the patriarchy tended to restrict and confine and label and demote Aphrodite from her queenly position. If you think about that birth story of Aphrodite, how they said she was born of Zeus and Dion, that put her more on that physical realm, that physical love and drama realm. In patriarchy and religion, they set up the Madonna or the mother whore complex through sex shaming and substituting her for the compliant Virgin Mary for worship. But, in doing so, they also ignored that she was, the Virgin Mary was actually one of the priestesses of the goddess of Inanna and Aphrodite. Another way that they suppressed Aphrodite and, or the feminine power is the massacre of the witches and the priestesses and the healers. The beauty myth is a massive one. We've lost touch with Aphrodite's sacred dimensions by fixating on physical charms, romance, sexual erotic images, pornography, and fashion and glamour. And the media's portrayal of what is beautiful and sexy, if you look at like the body types and height or the rest of it, only 5% of women fit into this ideal body. But if you add the perfect shape, only 1% of women fit this so-called perfection of beauty. So naturally, women are left feeling incapable of measuring up to this image. And if attractiveness is a woman's biggest source of security, her sexuality, her physical beauty, all this kind of stuff, she'll often experience jealousy, insecurity, shame, vanity, anxiety. And, if her body's starting to fade with age, it just sets up a massive fear in women. Men also suffer when they compare the appearance of the available women to the suggested glamorized image that is sold to them by the media. And it just results in illusion and separation and misery for everyone. There's also something called the schizophrenic urge. Oh, no, check that out. There it is. And this is where there's both a denial and censorship of the sensual beauty and pleasure, while there is a crude lusting for it. And this results in an estrangement from the body and a deep fear of intimacy, while simultaneously yearning for intimacy, yearning for connection. Sex addiction is another classic wound, when Aphrodite's desire and search for love manifest as a sexual compulsion and an abuse of power. We lose touch with the sacred dimensions, with the dimensions of sacred sexuality. Emotional intimacy and the basic relating needs, being able to get along, everything like that becomes sexualized. Seduction is a desperate attempt to reach another person, and sex is used in an attempt to be loved. And I know for myself, I definitely have played this out, and even recently watching a dynamic where, I was continuing a sexual relationship with a man in the hope that he would love me, and, I've stopped it, but it was just those few weeks of going, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I slipped back into that. So, that's part of that sexual wound. And, looking for, fleeting pleasure or even a pain, a painful experience with anyone will do just for some contact, some recognition, anything other than being alone. All of this leads to a lot of shame, self-loathing, and self-punishment. The body or how we see ourselves becomes the enemy, and often we see that women have eating disorders or other addictive disorders. Cutting is such a massive thing at the moment. Also, when we can't trust ourselves anymore, the physical needs and desires become feared. The sister wound. So this is quite an interesting one to have a look at. What we find here is the Greek mythology actually kept Aphrodite separate from the other goddesses. She didn't kind of fit into the kind of what they called the virgin goddesses, which were like the warrior types like Artemis and Athena, and or the mother goddesses of Demeter or Hestia. And what we see often happens here is this thing called divide and conquer. So the powers in patriarchy know that women are the law keepers. Women hold the power when they're together as a collective and in the tribe. So by separating women and creating the nuclear family, so to speak, where husband, wife, a few kids, maybe some relatives, we lost the tribe. We lost the wisdom, the women's ways, the mysteries, the sacred connections to the earth and the cycles, and just created a great separation from each other and from our own divine wisdom. And because women are the keepers of the law, women that were kind of in a sense of, held any sort of power at all, of course not as powerful as the men, but they certainly, they would enforce religion and patriarchy, and any women who were not meeting these things were shunned and ostracized and separated, and made different to, they weren't allowed to be a part of society. And then we have competitiveness consciousness. And this is a very common thing. It seems to be programmed into the collective consciousness of women, to be competitive with other women. What happened with, you know, women being made the lesser sex, with this change of the loss of our tribe and needing to be in different ways of living, women started to need men to, you know, they were the stronger sex and men would protect them and provide for them. So rivalry and jealousy ensued between women. And this belief that we are weaker tears us apart and prevents us from being fully in our individual and collective power. When we tear women down and judge their appearance, you know, their socioeconomic status, their talent, we're placing, or even if we place women on the pedestal so that we are less than, this is also a subtle form of competitiveness. There's the pain of defeminization. So because women are supposedly weak and always get hurt, in order to be accepted and to get anywhere in the world, the women have taken on the masculine. But feminine power is very different to masculine power. And as a result, women might feel that they've got some sense of power in the masculine world, but they're really depleting their feminine and becoming quite unwell as a result of it. So I wanted to just pause for a moment with and reflect upon, you know, we're talking about this dark side and shadow and the wounds, and I wanted to just clarify what I mean by the word dark, because dark doesn't necessarily mean evil. If we think about yin and yang, you've got your positive, your negative. So positive is the white and dark is the negative, and masculine is the white and feminine is the negative. So it's the dark. So there's actually a lot of power available in this dark energy. But what often happens is, because of this is such powerful energy, it has strong attachment energy, and it will attach to whatever it's being presented with. So if we are living in a lot of drama and heartache, and there's, you know, this chaos going on that isn't good for us, so to speak, it will be amplified in the dark feminine. But if we are focusing on source energy, on the divine, on the divine feminine, that is amplified. The energy attaches to that, and we can create amazing, amazing things, you know, by attuning to this dark energy. And when there's a situation of, you know, the negative aspects, I suppose, are detrimental, we as you know, working with feminine alchemy, we can transmute this negative darkness into luminous divine light, which holds both dark and light. It's kind of like, on this realm, we experience separation, we experience polarity and opposites and stuff, but in the divine, the light holds both the light and the dark. It's not separate, it's one. And when we can face our dark side with love, we can switch and heal to access. There's actually hidden gems and dormant power in there when we switch it to the divine energy. So with that, we can have a look at some steps that we can take for change, to heal these wounds and all this darkness. So, you know, the celestial Aphrodite is calling upon us women to bring forth this feminine alchemy into the world. And it would be really easy to compile an overwhelming list of what needs to be done. In fact, I did before the webinar. I realized, oh, that's just too much to go through. So I just wanted to bring you back to a basic key, and that is coming back home to yourself, back to your body, embodying your sensual body wisdom, you know, through beauty and love. and sexuality. We don't need to change or control the powers of patriarchy as they are right now. What we need to do is just bring through a new vibration through our bodies, and we'll actually find that the old way, the patriarchal way, is actually falling away. And the more and more women that start to vibrate on this higher frequency, the shift would take place maybe, a little faster. So I'd like you to remember the goddess within. When we live as full-bodied women, imbued with the powers of feminine, we access the goddess within us. We face and disarm our demons with love. That's all inside you. And in my work, the way of the feminine initiation, it helps you to remember, if I put remember, and access all that. Okay, so let's have a look at how we work with beauty, love, and sexuality in ways that switch from exploitation and seduction and lower desires, so that we can raise beauty and seduction being used for inspiration and spiritual awakening instead. So I just want you to ponder for a moment, maybe even close your eyes, take another beautiful deep breath, and just stop for a moment and reflect and remember something that you recently thought was beautiful. Just want you to notice what you feel in your body as you encounter this beauty, and how does it touch you? Just stay with this energy for a little bit as I continue, feeling, noticing, remembering as best as you can as a bodily experience, beauty. Because beauty transforms us. It imbues us with love. It inspires us to create and to manifest. We want to share beauty with others so that others can open and be inspired and enjoy the moment as well. It's very heart-opening. It awakens us. It creates a sensory bliss. And it's almost like there's a suspension in our thought processes, and that all is right in the world. And it's in that moment that alchemy occurs. We can shift from one way of being to another. But what often happens is we might notice something is beautiful. We don't actually really stop to drink it in, to allow and really recognize the transformation that takes place. So I'd like you to remember this frequency of beauty. It's the inner beauty. It's not something we have to go out and find. We don't have to pluck and shave and wax and add makeup and do all that. It's fine if you do that as well, but as long as it's not what you identify yourself with, but you are so much more. And, the beauty is the source of the goddess, and it's how we access our divinity. It's so much more beyond being pretty or better than. It's in our wholeness is what's beautiful. So every part of us, we can start to see beauty in the things that we criticized about ourselves. That's starting to create amazing alchemy. In Tantra, it's called embracing all and rejecting nothing. This is the feminine face of God, the feminine paradigm of life. Everything is related. And we need to remember that we're unity, we're at one with all of it. Beauty, things that you don't even think are beautiful, you know, but really it's just a perception. So when we see beauty in everything and let it wake us up inside, it will transform you. The alchemy of love. Well, quite simply, the divine feminine is love. And as women, our very nature is love and to be loved. We can infuse love into everything in our lives. The feminine alchemy of love is in the ability to behold what arises in each moment and love that. That's right. We don't have to try to fix it or react to it or change it. Whenever we meet something difficult in our lives with the neutrality of love or acceptance, it actually automatically starts to shift. Honestly, we don't. I've done it so many times, and I've witnessed other women and men doing it as well, that you just create a space for it and hold whatever is there that you're struggling with, and it starts to shift. In Tantra, we call this making love to the moment, and in shamanism, it's called switching. And as we mature, we get better at it. And we can really start to cultivate compassion. And so what this means is, instead of being a victim and dramatizing matters of the heart, like love and jealousy, betrayal, abandonment, he or she did this or didn't do that, we can raise the love vibration to the high heart and cultivate this compassion. The compassion replaces any rewounding we may otherwise experience. By consciously raising the vibration of love, we switch from being the wounded maidens into being powerful, loving queens. We bless everyone and everything around us. We raise the collective consciousness to shift out of victim and victim consciousness. We come closer to living as goddesses and gods on the golden age on earth. So, you know, women, I really encourage you, it's time to make love to whatever hurt, betrayal, and drama arises. The alchemy of sexuality. We must go to a higher vibration within ourselves to remember what this feminine sexual energy is all about and how we can awaken it wisely and use it wisely. This energy will be received by women who have a deep and genuine love for themselves and for humanity. Feminine sexuality is the most potent force on the planet. It's our vitality. If you think about it, sex creates life, and we wouldn't be here without it. As women, our bodies are designed for sex, and in the temple times, we practiced the sex magic. Do you know we are creating all the time? So, you know, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, so we can set intentions and create, which is just amazing and awesome. And if you're good at it, then, you know, you've definitely been able to start to access your feminine alchemy and magic. But there's also ways that we recreate this unconsciously, and that's where there's any wounds that keep playing out in our psyche, or programs and conditioning that we've had instilled in us, and we just keep repeating. That's what the karma is. And breaking karma is being able to do something different or react differently to a situation. And that's when you're starting to create something new. And in the physical act of sex as well, when we use this correctly, it wakes us up, heals, transforms. We can use it for manifesting our desires. It's vital to change the way we view and experience sex today. You know, it's so often just being limited to, you know, bodies bumping bits. But, you know, I really, you know, a lot of the work I do with Tantra and the way of the feminine is reclaiming our sexual power and experiencing sexuality as an everyday experience, the sensuality, you know, feeling the arousal of the wind blowing through your hair, and the ocean, the water, the sensations on your skin, all of that is sexual energy. And, you know, we can use it in such beautiful ways. And I really believe together that we can start to show man a different image of sex and sexuality when we embody this. And I believe this is the gift of the Aphrodite alchemy. So, way of the feminine. This is a body of work that I'm bringing through, where, yeah, I encourage us to restore the sacredness of women. Through Tantra, shamanism, and the assistance of Aphrodite, we reclaim the holiness of our bodies and our connection to our Earth Mother. We can, you know, we can reestablish the tribe, the power of sisterhood, for we are stronger together. And I invite you to enter the temple of Aphrodite, or Inanna, to birth the modern priestess through rites of passage initiations. So just briefly, you know, the modern day priestess is the living symbols of divinity, the goddess incarnate, bringing the sacred back into everything we say and do, in harmony with the cycles, both within our bodies and outside in nature, and in the stars and astrology, all those sorts of things. Modern day priestess inspires beauty in life and loves all that is and knows how to use sexual energy wisely. So, yeah, what to do next? I'd really love to invite you to, I have a Aphrodite temple taster coming up on this Sunday, and it's from 12 to 4 p.m, where you get to have an embodiment, a live experience of this work. And just wanted to also let you know that the Way of the Feminine initiations start on the 3rd of June. But really, I feel that if you can get to this taster on Sunday, that will really give you a beautiful experience, more than what I can talk about and explain. And, you know, a lot of women have already done this work, and they certainly know what I mean. So, yeah, it's just an incredible opportunity to experience the world in such a different way. If you can't make that, you're welcome to join women that are already working with the Aphrodite alchemy. I hold a women's monthly tantra circle every 4 weeks on a Tuesday evening. The next one is this coming up on the 8th of May. There's also a naked bikini yoga dance if you're feeling ready to shed the layers and conditioning of shame around your body. This is a really beautiful, powerful evening that so many women feel blessed and transformed by. And that's on the 3rd Friday of every month, and the next one starting on the 18th of May. So I'm just going to stop this share video and hop back on, and I'm going to take you off mute. So if you wanted to ask any questions or any shares around if Aphrodite or Inanna or any of those goddesses are ones that you connect to and relate to, yeah, sorry, I'm just unmuting as I talk. There's somebody on an iPhone at the moment, but I can't unmute you, unfortunately, it seems. Okay, so yeah, Rebecca, was there anything you wanted to share? Oh, actually, I'm gonna stop the recording so that you know you can share more privately.